So Jagex added the Staff of Armadyl update into the game today, and it was something that I wanted to test out on stream, of course, because this is pretty much the only combat style I use most of the time is magic. So I wanted to test out the staff that I worked so damn hard to get and see if the update was good or bad, as I didn't actually get a chance to test it on the beta. So in this video I'm going to give you my thoughts and then also go through some pros and some cons to the changes of the update to go along with the changes of the staff as well. So with that being said, let's talk about it. Okay, so I tested the staff at Zamorak, Karapak Hard Mode, Raksha, Solo Solak, and then in ED1, so I could test the DPS at Seiryu. I had a few things to mention at each of these bosses, which we're going to talk about very soon, because the experience was quite interesting. However, when I first started out using the staff and the new spec, as like I said, I didn't get to try it out in the beta, I didn't have a clue what the hell I was doing, I actually was still using my Armadyl battle staff, and I quickly noticed that I probably don't want to do this in most situations, but there may be some that it's still useful. The reason for this is just because you don't seem to sustain the amount of adrenaline that you would have had in the past. If you crit a lot of times on the Armadyl battle staff, then you're okay, but if you only get a couple and then you don't get any auto attacks to crit after that, which you would have in the past, then you're kind of screwed and you don't get enough adrenaline back, and it just feels kind of bad. But don't go getting rid of your Essence of Finality just yet, because it still has some uses. For example, once you've charged an Edict at Zamorak, you get 100% adrenaline refunded to you, so you can already throw off your like Omnipower and Wild Magic, and then after that, you're pretty much good to go on using Armadyl battle staff specs if you so please. Now again, this might change on the meta. People might figure out that something else is better, or people might figure out that Armadyl battle staff actually works in a lot of places, so just hang on to it. Don't bin it. I don't want anyone to get rid of it and say, and it told me it was crap, but now everybody's using it. So please don't remove it. Just hang on to it for now. Overall though, my experience with using the staff wasn't that much different in terms of DPS at first. It took a bit of getting used to not using the Armadyl battle staff and just standing there firing off tornado after tornado after tornado and never having any less adrenaline, going to using 4-ticking instead, using Greater Concentrated Blast, then an ability, and then swapping in 4-ticking and using a threshold on the staff, and then going back and doing the same. This felt a little bit more busy, of course, that's like the difference in it, but in terms of DPS output, it really didn't feel that much different. One thing I will say though is it did feel more consistent to use the staff in terms of damage. What I mean by this is sometimes with the Staff of Armadyl in the past, you would go into a boss and you would either annihilate the living crap out of him because you crit every single time and every auto crits and you just had infinite adrenaline and you kind of felt like a badass all of a sudden. And then other times you would go in and feel like you were tickling the boss with a feather duster. For any of you who held a Staff of Armadyl in the past for longer than like, I don't know, a few days and tried it out, you probably know what I mean. Sometimes you crit like crazy, sometimes you sat there thinking, I really paid billions for this freaking weapon, what the hell? However, it doesn't feel that bad that often anymore. You don't get those moments where you kind of want to just change to melee. Yeah, okay. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, melee users. I used it recently. It was a ton of fun. I'm just really bad at melee, okay? I'm sorry. Anyway, the staff itself does seem a lot more consistent in terms of damage, and I think this is because of the use of Greater Concentrated Blast. Of course, now we can switch between dual wield and two-hander because we don't have to worry that the auto attack damage is different between them because we don't use autos anymore. So being able to use Greater Concentrated Blast now gives us a lot higher crit rate as it can crit off of itself. It has 3 hits in the one ability use, and it buffs the next ability's crit rate too. So you are critting a lot more consistently, it seems, which is obviously good because it gets rid of those moments where you felt like Ron Weasley using a sellotaped wand. At places like Karapak and Hard Mode on the final phase, it felt a lot better to use because I was consistently killing the clones off. I didn't have to worry that I wasn't going to crit at all and I wasn't going to kill them off quickly enough. I didn't have to worry about that. It was way more consistent, felt good. But then we came to Solak, the tree. You know, the one that hits like a massive truck? Yes, this guy, he beat the living shit out of me. I can do Solak, and I'm sure I could still do Solak. I just decided to give up on him because there was a moment where I realized how much I was benefiting in the past from the Blood Barrage heals. We do not get those anymore, and this is definitely something that you are going to notice if you are someone who relied on it or just took advantage of it in quite a few situations. I know I did. I just didn't realize how much it was really helping. It's a lot, and I will definitely miss that benefit in a lot of places. So overall, staff was okay. Didn't make a big difference in terms of damage. Didn't feel like it was not a tier 95. Didn't feel like they've ruined it and I want to throw it away. There's going to be some adjusting to do for sure, and there's going to be some getting used to certain places and new bosses, but I think that's fine, and I'm kind of looking forward to a new feel to PVM, even if it is only a slight change and not necessarily in my favor. Okay, so let's move on to the pros of the staff and then we'll cover the cons straight after that. So, after the Fractured Staff of Armadyl changes, here are some of the pros. It uses much less runes than it used to. We don't fire off auto attacks anymore. When we land crits, we get an ability damage hit, and it no longer burns through your runes. This feels a lot better for the bank as you're not constantly filling up your rune pouch, and we all know how expensive it is to run a Staff of Armadyl because you also want the Grimoire on as well, so this definitely helps out with that. Number 2, because the attacks are now ability damage from the staff and not auto attacks, you can also use your dual wield as well. This also means that you can have a defender on and you aren't going to feel as bad as you would have done in the past. If you have staff spec up and you suddenly need to use a defensive or a defender, you can use that and you can not get punished anywhere near as badly as you would have done in the past. Number 3, it seems much more consistent in terms of damage. In the past, there was times when the staff just felt absolutely terrible because you had bad crit RNG. You're not going to get this as often anymore, where you might still sometimes, but it's going to be nowhere near as common. I do believe that this is because of Great Concentrated Blast with the extra crit rate on itself and then buffing the next ability too, because you're going to be using Great Concentrated Blast a lot. Number 4 is a pro for Revo players. You can absolutely just use the Staff of Armadyl spec and then camp dual wield if that was your goal in the first place. You can do this. You will probably get a benefit out of using the staff. This is definitely going to be better if you never used to do all of the rotations in terms of using Wild Magic and Omni Power and then using Tendrils and then using Armadyl Battle Staff to Tickets Fix, all this sort of stuff. If you didn't do that in the past and you don't plan on learning it anyway, this is going to be better for you because you're staff specking and then going back to Revo on a dual wield and then basically letting Great Concentrated Blast carry you through it. However, I do believe that Revolution won't use an Essence of Finality. I don't know if that's changed since the last time I tried it, but if it doesn't, you do probably want to use a Gothic Staff Essence of Finality in there somewhere, but again, that's only one button, so nothing really to worry about. And number 5, from what I can tell, it doesn't seem like the Staff of Armadyl is too reliant on the Armadyl Battle Staff anymore. If this is true, and it stays this way, and I'm right with this, then this is one less Essence of Finality that you will have to bring along to a lot of places. Again, I don't think this is going to be redundant, and I do think it will have uses at places like Zamorak, where it gives you more adrenaline, and the top tier PVMers may find use for it in a lot of other situations as well, so just keep an eye out on what they're doing, and we'll learn from them. But for anybody who doesn't want to bring that extra switch, it doesn't feel bad to put it in the bank and not bring it along. As for the cons of the Staff of Armadyl update, let's talk about them. I can only really think of 3, but at the same time, they are pretty big cons, and I am going to miss some of them. First one, of course, is going to be the loss of auto attacks when you are using the staff. There was a lot of value in using auto attacks when you were staff spec'd in the past. For example, using Blood Barrage to do either AoE damage or to be able to heal you as well. The amount of healing that you would have got in the past from using the staff spec and then changing your auto cast to Blood Barrage was a lot more than I actually realized. Once I went to Solak, I actually realized that Blood Barrage healing here is absolutely huge for keeping me through the fight consistently and not worrying at all about food. In the past, soloing this boss wouldn't have been a big deal because when I got to the phase where all the bombs are on the floor, you would just use the staff spec, you would then change to Blood Barrage, and you would basically heal most of the damage you took back because you're critting and you're doing all the damage, you soul split flicking as well, but you're getting all the Blood Barrage crits in between, which is keeping you nice and healthy. What I noticed was because I was getting hit more, my health was lower, I was of course eating more, which was costing me adrenaline if I was using solid food, and I was also focusing more on holy shit, I'm dying, instead of focusing on what's my next best way of doing DPS. So for anybody who did take advantage of the Blood Barrage auto attack after you were using Saspec, you'll probably notice this in a few places. I noticed it at Karapak Hard Mode, but not quite as much. I noticed it at Zamorak, absolutely, and I noticed it at Solak for sure. I didn't even get a Solak solo kill today because I just gave up when he was beating the living crap out of me. I was like, nah, we'll come back to this another day. We'll be able to do it, but just not tonight. Second on the cons is going to be that it incentivizes Fortic auto attack, but I want to stress this, you don't need to Fortic auto attack. Some people are saying that, oh, you have to Fortic now. Do you have to Fortic? But I don't want to Fortic. You don't have to. You'll still get benefits. It's still good. It's fine. But for the people who want to reach peak DPS, you will want to Fortic auto attack, whereas in the past, you didn't really do it as much. You would only do it if you had to swap to use Great Concentrated Blast for adrenaline, and then you'd Fortic when you went back to your staff like once. Like that was pretty much it, right? Whereas now for the people, like I said, that do want to reach peak DPS, you want to get as much out of it as you can, you will want to be using Fortic auto attack to be able to get like that extra crit, that extra bit of damage in there, because that's just the way it works. We're using dual wield now, where you're going from dual wield for Great Concentrated Blast and ability to then staff 4-tick and threshold and then back to dual wield. That seems to be the way to do it, and so you will want to 4-tick those if you can. However, overall, I guess this still comes under the con list, as 4-tick auto attacking is definitely incentivized with the staff, so I kind of have to put it on the list. Even though I enjoy it, a lot of people don't. Most people don't like it, and you absolutely can't blame them for that, so it is on the con list. The final con really isn't that big of a deal, but you do kind of don't have that option anymore of going in, using staff spec, and then going, wait, where'd the boss go? I've killed it already, what the frick? Because your staff just went absolutely insane. You got all of the crits on Armadyl battle staff, you got infinite adrenaline because you're the freaking world guardian and you do not land any hits that are not crits, and that's pretty much how it felt sometimes. You would just get godly DPS, you would be absolutely crazy and unstoppable, and it felt great. It feels good. And you're just not going to get to experience that as often anymore. But as I mentioned in the pros, you also have a lot less moments where the staff feels like you left your DPS at home. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the Staff of Armadyl. What do you guys think? Let me know how you feel about it. If you can think of any other pros and cons, leave them down in the comments down below. But other than that, I hope you all found the video useful. If you did, please do leave a like. Sub to the channel if you are new. Channel members and Patreon subs, thank you all so much for the extra support on the channel. I very much appreciate it. But otherwise, I will catch you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.